Hello. We had a bit of a kerfuffle today with the time being set wrong because this was rescheduled from a Thursday. So it was accidentally sent for 2 p.m. instead of noon. So we got this fixed. Hopefully, y'all will get the notices and we will get this taken care of because that's crazy. Anyway, um, I hope y'all are having a good day and are ready to talk about what is toxic. Yeah. Oh, there we go. We've got Cobalt. I knew Cobalt was on it because you sent me a message. It was like, what the fudge? That's the wrong time. Yeah. Hmm. Oh, technology. I do love it, and it drives me insane. Executive dysfunction probably doesn't help a whole lot in that either. And so many moving parts. I mean, we have so many channels and things. And then, yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start the introduction and get things going. And hey, Sir Thomas, always a pleasure. Good to see you. Okay, let's hide that. Hide this, because there are a million things I was doing trying to get all of this figured out because it was confused. Okay, here we go. Hey, y'all. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Heather or Nookie. Hey, Sabyasachi. Always a pleasure. I am endlessly curious about sex, love, romance, and of course, kink. I spend my time doing workshops like this or webinars like this, teaching workshops, hosting classes, and writing books about sex, love, romance, and of course, kink for people of all genders, relationship statuses, orientations, and more. I have explored relationships and sex and kink in numerous different ways for decades in different places around the country and around the world. And I have been incredibly lucky to really dig into these things. All of my experiences thus far have led me to the belief that boundaries are the key, not only to saving ourselves, but our relationships. They are what take us from getting by or merely average to healthy, loving, strong, and fan-fucking-tastic. So let's get started today. As usual, I'll kick us off with an introduction to my book and how I'm writing it. So I am working on a new book, Boundaries Are Sexy as Fuck. That's the working title right now. And you can get access to the chapters as I write and post them by registering for my Take No Shit workshop, which is, there we go, in progress right now. It is 7 weeks. And you can get it for $27, which is less than $4 per week. Or you could get it for as low as $7 right now. That price is going to go up here in the next week or so because we are running a beta. However, because the beta has been going so well, we are ready to let additional people in and to take that price up closer to where we are going to want it. Eventually, the price will be up at $197. So right now, $4 a week, all the way down to $1 a week, depending on how you name your price, is a great deal. And it's a great way to get in on the ground floor of this. Now, for those of you who are not yet in there, or maybe haven't been keeping up with everything in the boundaries writing, I have spent since last week. I think it was last Wednesday, working on one chapter. One chapter. Yeah, I know. The outline for that chapter is over 10,000 words. Ugh. And that chapter is gaslighting and manipulation. Yeah. So, what I've decided to do is I am going to share sort of my outline and thoughts on gaslighting and manipulation with the Boundaries Are Sexy as Fuck live write group. I'm going to write the chapter much shorter than the way it's sort of working out right now. And that is actually going to become a small spin-off book all by itself. And for those of you who are on FetLife, for example, who might be interested in participating in a discussion about, there we go, in a discussion about gaslighting and asking questions, you can check that out right there. I also put that into the chat for those of you who are following along. So that is going to be its own little spin-off book. Right now, the working title for that is Gaslighting, Manipulation, and what is it? Ooh, I've forgotten my own thing. Yes, Nookie Notes. That's me. Let's see. Gaslighting, manipulation, and scunnery of the worst sorts. Learn to recognize and eliminate them from your life. So, yes, very excited about that. Feeling pretty good about the idea that people really do want to do a deep dive into gaslighting and manipulation and understanding how it affects their lives. So there you go. But today, hey, Celine, she's the one, by the way, she's the one you get to spank for setting the time wrong. So bad girl. Anyway, over and done with. We got it figured out in time. Not a big deal. So let's talk about what is toxic anyway, right? Because toxic is such a buzzword right now, right? It's kind of like gaslighting, right? You say, oh, you're gaslighting me, they're gaslighting us, this, that, and the other thing, so on and so forth. And it kind of becomes this umbrella that we apply what I would consider inaccurately to people and situations. And I think it's important to really dig down into how we use words. Now, this is a big soapbox of mine. And those of you who are in the Take No Shit workshop know that I focus a lot in on the science of the brain and psychology. And one of the bits of science that I've been following over the years is how the language that we use to ourselves and to others affects how we can think. Now, remember how we talked a little bit about how our physical body affects how we emote our feelings? Well, it's kind of the same thing. It's one of those either vicious cycles or virtuous cycles. And the words that we use are both a result of our thoughts and then influence and inform our thoughts. So I wrote years and years and years ago, this ranty little post about semantics. And I'm going to share a bit of that with you because it's important to me that you understand. We talked about this last night. I was interviewed by the Untangled team about boundaries and mental health. And we talked a bit about semantics and how important they are to our mental health and to how we set boundaries and to how we communicate with others. And those of you who have been following along in the Boundaries book know that people use words differently, right? So super empathic people or feelers get like they sort of pick the word that's closest to what they want and they use that word and then they color it with their emotions. They push out emotions to others. Whereas people who are more thinky and less feely, we tend to focus in on precise language and meanings of words because that's how we color and shade our vocabulary. And that can cause for a lot of miscommunication. So there's this, what's the word? Train of thought, linguistic relativity. And I've long been a fan of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, even before I knew it was an actual thing. And I used to think that I was going to actually study languages and etymology in school. I took French, I took Russian, I bought myself the Oxford English Dictionary for my 14th birthday because it was the most comprehensive English language dictionary in the world. And I read it. Like I literally would open it up and just read through it. So Sapir-Whorf, in basic terms, is that the words you use shape your world, your actions, and your thoughts. Okay? So your thoughts shape the words that you use and help you choose the words that you use, but then using those words reinforces them in your mind and shapes thoughts that come after them. This is important. And this is why toxicity is something that we're talking about today. So this is the reason I have a habit of saying, this and this are not the same. That's why we have different words for them. And many people retort, that's just semantics. And I couldn't disagree more. So, like, for example, somebody might say, oh, that person's a narcissist. And I say, do they have an official diagnosis? And they might say, no, I can just tell. And I'm like, so are they a narcissist or are they an abuser? Oh, that's the same thing. No, it's not the same thing. They're either a narcissist or an abuser or both. That's why we have different words. It's important to be precise with our language because, again, how we label people and things in our world color how we think about them moving forward, right? And also affect how we think about ourselves. This is key, and I'm going to get to that. So, angry and upset. I asked somebody once, what are your definitions of angry and upset? And do you believe they're different? And he said, no. I believe they're very different. So when I'm angry, there is a disappointment in me that is strong enough to bring up my ire. When I'm upset, that's sort of a low level. It could be sadness. It could be frustration. It could be the tiniest bit of anger, but I haven't really defined it yet. It's more nebulous, right? So to me, there's a difference between things like angry, frustrated, annoyed, peeved, furious, upset, discombobulated, mad, cross, vexed, irked, irritated, and so on. And your definitions of the severity and degree and actions that go with them could be different, putting a completely different spin on a scenario. Okay. So let's go back to toxic. See, Sabyasachi, angry and upset are different. But not everybody believes that. Not everybody experiences that range of emotions and words. And I'm here to say to you that if you are going to create boundaries for yourself in your life, and you are going to start surrounding yourself with people who are more in tune with you, it will help for you to be a little more, I'm not going to use the word accurate because, hey, you might be wrong, right? But maybe a little more distinct with the language that you use. Okay. So, real quick, Cobalt has something to say. Used to be a covert narcissist was someone who pretended to be humble, who genuinely thinks they're better than others. Now it's used for people whose self-esteem is so low, it's obsessive. Language also lives, right? So it's a big, big thing to understand not only how you use language, but then how the people around you also use language. Like, for example, triggers, right? I know people, older gay men, older lesbians, um, people who lived through the 80s and the 90s and gay bashing, lots and lots of gay bashing, who refuse to use the word queer. Whereas right now, queer is in very common use as an umbrella term to all of the alphabet mafia, right? So words matter. KS says, angry and upset, can it overlap? Absolutely, it can overlap. Just like anger and sadness can overlap, right? They're not the same thing, but you can have them at the same time. They can blend together. Or your upset could just be a small part of your overall anger. But they're different things, right? So, toxicity. So in this private group on Facebook that I'm in, which is probably about 98% male identifying, because it's power, dominance, personal realization type group. A recent post asked, sometimes we go about the subject of women as if they are these fragile, flowery beings, ignoring that they are very powerful, that there are very negative, powerful sides to women that undermine our being as men. Some women are so compromised in their habitual negative thinking, feeling, behaving that they are beyond salvage. Has anyone read this book? And then they posted this book titled, and I'm not kidding here, titled An Exclusive Guide to Damaged Women. Sit with that a minute. An exclusive guide to damaged women. And this is non-ironic, people. So, my response to that post was, I don't really think it matters if someone is damaged or not. It's not about them. It's about you. Do whatever you are willing to do and enjoy doing, and don't do the rest. Then it doesn't matter about reading them right or whatever, because you're living your best life. Right? What do you think happened? What do you think happened when I posted that? Now, remember, 98% men, and that was posted unironically. Yeah, I got pushback, backlash. You got it, Cobalt. Oh, they came for me. And so the original poster replied and said, lack of awareness and deeper knowledge on toxic women turn even strong men into derelicts. Damaged women will waste your time, energy, and life. The issue is not about reading more, but recognizing the sign of a problem before you begin any relationship with a woman. Ask around from guys who have fallen victim to cunning, sly women. Ignorance is the worst place to be. Maybe you are lucky and have not met a toxic woman. Y'all, I can barely keep myself from crying with laughter here. Seriously. So, this is my reply. I've met plenty of toxic people. Plenty. And coaching and advising people about living their best sex, love, and kink lives is my daily grind. I love this about myself. Toxic is not the only thing that will turn people into derelicts. Poor personal awareness, shitty boundaries, and lack of self control are far more likely to be the cause. You know this. You've been there. We all have. Every one of us. Here's a secret. It doesn't matter if someone is toxic or not. It doesn't matter. That has zero to do with you. And as Cobalt says, absolutely. Sometimes it's circumstantial. Whether someone is toxic or not, if you only do what you know is right for you and let everything else go, it doesn't matter why a person is not a fit or if they're toxic. They just aren't right for you. Here's the thing. You can label people good, bad, pretty, ugly, smart, sexy, right? Damaged, toxic, odd. You can label them whatever. And I'm sure every single one of you out there watching this right now, listening to it, whatever, I am sure you have been labeled at least half of those things at some point in your life. I've been labeled all of them, and quite a few more that even I would hesitate to put out into the universe right now. Right? And I'm not going to say that I don't label people casually like that. If I said that, that would be a big, fat, honkin' lie. However, the key is to understand that we use labels to describe an experience experience of a person, not the person themselves. Let me say that again. We use labels to describe our experience of a person, not the person themselves. I'm a good person, mostly. I'm also bad, rotten, snarky, mean. Depends on context, right? And the person's experience of me. Yes? So it depends on context and the person's experience. Yes? Someone is either right for you right now or not. Also useful to know, do they have a net positive effect? Or better yet, can you say about any given person, are they an overwhelmingly positive force in your life? Those of you who have been following me for a long time or who have been subjected to my rants over the years know that I define a successful relationship as a relationship where both people feel like they receive far more than they give. And that applies to every optional relationship in your life. Of course, we can't as easily choose our coworkers or bosses or dependents, but every optional relationship, if you feel like you get far more out of it than you put in, that's a successful relationship, in my view. The wrong people for you will almost always suck energy. And like I said, we can't choose our coworkers as easily or our bosses or our dependents. We can't. And that is one of the reasons that when we do choose our relationships, we want to choose relationships that give us so much more than we put in. And the reason we want to do that is because the rest of life is going to drain us. We need to be overflowing in order to just fucking make it through. Right? Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Just because someone sucks energy from you or doesn't communicate well with you or practices manipulative behaviors or whatever, it doesn't mean they're toxic. I mean, maybe they are. Maybe they're damaged. Aren't most of us in one way or another? But here's the thing. That communication style and that damage and that manipulation pattern may not be a problem, may not be an insurmountable problem for the right connection. Right? So, what's most important is not whether someone is toxic, whether they have trauma, or whether they're damaged. Hey, y'all. Hi, I'm Heather. Some people call me Nookie. Most people call me Nookie. And I'm damaged. So what? I'm living a fucking amazing life with people who adore me and who I adore. And sometimes I gotta fucking pinch myself. Like, is this really real? So it's not whether someone is toxic. It's not whether they have trauma. It's not whether they're damaged or whether they can be a bit odd. Also me. Or whatever. It's whether they're a good fit for you. And as you develop your boundaries and as you practice setting boundaries and enforcing them, your intuition, your screening will become stronger and more accurate over time as you discover what really works and what doesn't with your personal boundaries. And, Mandy Girl just said, damaged people deserve love too, which is perfect because I also want to say it's the same when it's turned around. For some, for very few, when you look at the totality of the world and the people that are out there, you're going to be the tits, right? The bee's knees, the cat's pajamas. And for others, you're not their cup of tea. They may even call you toxic. So, getting back to the idea of toxic, when we label a human as toxic versus when we label somebody as that was not a good fit for me, we are in our minds saying it's okay to label people like that. And if it's okay for us to do to others, then it's okay for others to do to us. And that puts way too much power in what other people think. It gives away our power. So, when people ask me, hey, what do you think about so and so? I don't say, oh, they're toxic. That person is a jerk. They blah, 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 blah. What I say is, I didn't have a great experience with them. This is the type of conversation I had. Or I found that when I did things like this, they responded this way, and that didn't sit well with me. Right? My experience of a person is not the person. Just like somebody's experience of me is not actually me. So let's be careful when we're using words. Oh, what happened? Oh. Uh-oh. What happened there? Okay. I don't know what happened there. Did y'all see a little glitch there or something? That was weird. Anyway, your experience of me is whatever your experience is, right? That's fair. My experience of you is whatever my experience is. Some of you I have a very long history with. I have a lot of experiences to draw upon. Some good, some not so good. Here's the thing though. If I label you as toxic because I have a not so good experience, then I have just put you in a bucket and set you aside. Versus saying, I had a bad experience with you. And that means that at some point in the future, I might not have a bad experience with you. Right? And it also means that if you say something about me, I can very easily know that's your experience. It does not define me. Right? So let's look at what some of you have been saying, because I went on and on and on there, right? So Carolyn says, people don't want to look at themselves and are quick to label others, and guilty of it at times myself, for sure. Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying here is if we can shift from labeling others as toxic, right, to labeling their behavior as not a good fit for me, or even saying, I found their behavior to be manipulative. That doesn't mean they are a manipulative person, right? It could have been a bad situation. It could have been they were triggered by something and their trauma came out and they reacted in a way that was unhealthy, but it doesn't mean they're a bad person, right? Cobalt says, the one I call the abusive ex isn't abusive to his current wife. I'm friends with her and she doesn't need to know my experience. Right there. Soy can be toxic to me as I'm allergic, but it's not toxic overall, right? Yeah. I know somebody who is so allergic to shrimp that he stays out of the room where it is. We go out of our way when we have potlucks to make sure no shrimp come to the potlucks because we want him to be able to enjoy. Carolyn says, if it doesn't flow, it's got to go. It's not always meant for you, and that's okay. Let me add on to that. It's almost never meant for you. Think of how many thousands of people you interact with on a yearly basis, and how few of those you actually want to draw into your circle, that you want to create sweet spots with, that you're willing to mesh and compare boundaries with. Tiny amounts, right? Roger says, the problem is the word toxic is now the go-to word for anyone who disagrees with you. I don't give a fuck. And I just told you why. They can call me toxic all they want. I don't recognize their authority to judge me that way. And I feel bad for them that that's the only word to describe their experiences. It's like Anthony Robbins has this talk that he gives. And he said that most people, if you ask them, what emotions do you feel regularly? They'll be able to name between 5 and 10. Angry, sad, happy, stressed, frustrated, bored, right? But there's such a wide range of emotions. What about joyous? What about enthused? What about sensual? What about excited? What about anticipatory? What about how loving? Right? Even when it comes to feeling sad, are you feeling a bit meh? Are you feeling down? Are you blue? Are you feeling mopey? Are you wallowing? Right? Are you depressed? By using different words to describe yourself to yourself and using different words to describe people's behaviors for your experiences, you give yourself a much wider world to play in, and you can fine tune your boundaries more effectively. Carolyn says, how would someone with hyper-attachment anxiety go about understanding this and not taking it as a personal attack when a relationship doesn't work? Whoo, ha. So one of the challenges with things like hyper-attachment anxiety and things like shyness and so on and so forth is that, and don't hate me for this, they are so self-centered. They are focused entirely on the self being the center of the world. And for other people, that's just not true. And once you learn, hey, I want my boundaries to be honored, and this is how I feel inside of these boundaries. And then you realize that the flip side of that is the ethics of giving that to other people. All of a sudden, like a light bulb goes on, and you're like, holy shiznit, this is perfect. We all get to choose. And sometimes I don't like them either. I used to think that I liked them because I had shitty boundaries and I thought that I'd never get anything better, but I don't really like them. Right? It's hard though. I highly suggest that if somebody is super, super deep in hyper attachment anxiety, therapy, talk about it. Talk about how to get past that. Talk about teeny tiny little baby steps. Cobalt says, I've often chosen bad fits because I thought it was compassionate. I thought it was compassionate to accept things I wasn't okay with. Ha! Wow. Bam. Yes, boundaries will help with that. Because it's not compassionate to accept something you're not okay with. Like, A, not for you. And B, let's turn this around. If you're a good person and you found out that somebody was accepting something that they were not okay with from you and it was harming them, how would you feel? Not good, right? And if somebody was like, oh shit, yeah, they were accepting that for me and they didn't want it, ha 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 ha, then you don't want it, right? It's not compassionate. It's stupid at that point. KS, how to choose a good woman. Whoo, that is a big topic right there, isn't it? How to choose a good woman. Choose, figure out who you are, choose good people to surround yourself with that, and develop attachments with women. It's that simple. And not necessarily easy. Oops. Let's see. Or rather, how to choose a woman who is a good fit for you. Ding, 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 ding. Absolutely. Ha, Sabya Sapti. Moopy. That's a great word. Oh my goodness. Moopy. I love that. Sorry, I've still got a little bit of a head ick, right? Putting people in position to hurt me is cruel to them. Yeah. If they're good people, it's absolutely cruel to them and it's cruel to you. If they're not good people, it's shitty to you, right? Carolyn says, that's friendships too, or family too. 100%. And I've got a little something to share with you here. So you are not obligated to have a relationship with another adult if it's not healthy for you. Yeah, but no, but you are not obligated to have a relationship with another adult if it's not healthy for you. Family, be damned. Be damned. Right? Assuming that they are not a dependent, an actual dependent. I know people who have cut off family, and they are better for it. I am incredibly lucky. I have an amazing family. I remember calling up my dad one day after spending a lot of time, with other people and their families, and calling him up and saying, I never realized how amazing my family is. I said, and I want to thank you. And I want to thank Marcia, who is my stepmom. And I want to thank my mother, who is no longer with us. I said, for me being the most dramatic one in our family. Like, I was the problem child. I was the weirdo. I was the one dropping out of high school in my sophomore year and hitchhiking across the country and joining the carnival. Like, I was the weirdo in my family. Right? And I called my father and literally thanked him for that because they provided me such stability even within my neurodiversity that was never ever diagnosed when I was young, right? They just accepted me. That was key. That said, I've cut off people that I have known for years and years and years and years and years. And let me be clear, I was cut off by somebody because the way that I am, despite the fact that I absolutely adored them, was not a good fit for them. No matter how hard I tried, they felt drained trying to engage and really connect with me. And they cut me off. And that was rough. That was my first adult friendship. No more contact. It happens, right? I don't want anybody to spend time around me that they don't want to spend. Right? I also have this one to share with you. My kink is a relationship where I'm not crying and begging someone to put in the slightest bit of effort. I mean, I would say that's my baseline, but same, right? So, what do y'all think? Toxic. Are people toxic? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Are behaviors toxic to us? Yeah, absolutely. And people can bring out the worst in us. Like some people are just not a good fit for us, right? Some people can make us the meanest, nastiest, unnicest versions of ourselves. But if we take the time to think about how we engage with people and how we label them and choose, instead of labeling people, label their behaviors, label our experiences of them. I was having a conversation with somebody this morning. So I'm pretty involved in my local alternative community, kink, non-monogamy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I host groups, I run various things, et cetera. And we were talking about somebody who had a bit of a rough start in our local community and really seems to be putting in effort. And I said to this person, because this person said to me, they're a little like not so patient with this person right now. And they said, "Oh, thank you for having the patience to deal with that. Wow." And I said, this is what I said. I said, I would rather have somebody like XYZ person who had a rough start, but is eager to learn and to grow and to be a good part of this community than I would this other person who is incredibly emotionally savvy and uses it to be not nice to people and to advance her causes and to, get her way. And Roger, methinks I have that effect on you at times. This is what I will tell you, Roger. Sometimes you absolutely exasperate me. I was going to say exacerbate me, which is probably also true. But you absolutely exasperate me sometimes because I feel like the beliefs that you have created to protect yourself because you've been hurt are no longer serving you. And you still hold to them, which is absolutely, you're right. That said, I'm going to tell you this, Roger. You show up. And I believe you're doing the work. And over time, not that we're always going to agree, even as you grow and learn and whatever, but over time, you're growing. That's good stuff. Cobalt says, it took me a long time to be able to hear you clearly and a lot of work on my part, but it's been well beyond worth it. I learned so much with you. And Cobalt, for what it's worth, you have grown and changed and you are learning. And I absolutely appreciate and honor the work that you are putting in and the fact that you are doing it so publicly and sharing that with others. I think that you inspire people who aren't as public to do more and be better. I'd say my internal critic is toxic. That's something else that we definitely need to start focusing on is, boundaries about what we're willing to say to and about ourselves. But that's a whole nother topic. So, any questions on toxic? Anyone disagree with me? Do you feel that, it is absolutely right to label people as good, bad, toxic, whatever? Do you feel that that does not do harm to you as a person and as your psychology grows? Because I'm open to being told I'm wrong. I won't agree with you, but I love having those conversations, right? Okay, yeah. So wrapping this up, I got the sniffles. It's just the sniffles. It's just a head cold. It's not that I'm getting all kerflumped or anything like that, right? Okay. So today is What is Toxic Anyway? Thursday, we will be back at 2 p.m. Eastern. You used to be so nice. Oh, the guilt of setting boundaries. So we're going to talk about what it feels like, the guilt that people try to push on us when we start setting our boundaries. The 22nd, do you live for their acceptance? And then I realized I scheduled something for the 24th. Celine, don't make that for the 24th because the 24th is Thanksgiving. So we're gonna have to reschedule that. So that'll have to be Tuesday, the 22nd. So yeah, because we're gonna skip Thanksgiving. I'm going to be not the 22nd, the 24th, 29th. I'm going to be eating on Thanksgiving, or cooking, or both. So yeah. Okay. Coming up on the end of the month. Oh, Cobalt, I noticed that you said that you didn't get to watch Untangled last night. For those of you who are part of Dating Kinky or are Plus members, it's up in the Plus membership already. If you're not a Plus member, sometime over the next month or so, there is going to be a new DK members section that goes live that's in the same coaching system that we're using for Take No Shit, for the boundaries, right, and for the Plus membership. And that will include some sample content, and that Untangled episode will be free as a part of that sample content. So there you go. Here we go. This is a new one. So is that Army Parrot? Okay, Army Parrot. Some people do have bad habits and personality disorders, which can make a relationship really unbearable. Sometimes trying hard is not enough. The right person will totally change the dynamic. 100%. 100%. And I can even say, bad habits, personality disorders, patterns of what I would consider toxic behavior are absolutely things I keep an eye on. Again, though, that is my experience of them. And who knows, a couple years might go by, they might get therapy, they might get it all worked out. They are not a toxic person. They were being toxic or mean or difficult or whatever. Yeah. Okay. So we'll close things out here. Wait. What am I doing here? I want to show that. There we go. Okay. So as you know, I'm Nookie or Heather Claus. I'm currently writing my next book, Boundaries Are Sexy as Fuck, live chapter by chapter. Join me with this link to register for the Take No Shit workshop. Going now. It is a 7-week workshop with worksheets and videos and lessons and things to do. And it is going on right now. And a whopping $4 per week for 7 weeks. So jump on in there, and we would love to have you. Have an amazing day, everyone, and I will see you on Thursday. Bye, y'all.